My name is Felipe Montoya. I am one of the founders of Edunext, and I started working in the edX open source project back when it was released in 2013. In fact, I learned about edX because I was a keen participant in edX courses. So after I finished my university, I started taking courses on edX.org, and I loved this one course about engineering software as a service. I loved it so much, I thought this is even better than what I just finished taking in my university, that I became a teaching assistant for the second run of that course. And when I was being a teaching assistant, I thought like this is going to change the education of the world, and I started taking putting a lot of attention on what was going on with the edX project. And so I learned very early on that it was going to be released as open source, and the minute it was released I started working on it. So that's my story of
What was the first open source project that sparked your journey into open source?
The first time I contributed to OpenEDX is the first time I contributed to any open source project in my life. It was, I remember well, this was a few months after the project had launched, and I was trying to make it run, and I was especially trying to make it work on Spanish. And I found some strings that were not properly translated, so I made a contribution to translate them, and it was nerve-wracking. I was contributing for the first time. I didn't know a lot of the language, so the person that worked for edX that sort of guided my contribution asked me to do some technical stuff that I now think it's pretty easy, but I didn't know the words for that. So he asked me to squash the commits. That was what he said, and I was like, I don't know what squashing means. So I had to go and look around and find out that this was a technical process that I could easily do, but I was a very newbie in terms of open source contribution, and that was fantastic. And in the open source community, one time we decided to get T-shirts that have a little mark here that says what's the first contribution that you did in the project, and mine is 900 something in terms of all the contributors that came before me. But I was the second contributor to the project, external contributor, someone that was not hired by edX at that point. So this was, I later learned from talking with the fellows that work for edX that this was surprising for them. They were working in their Boston office, and then there was this guy from Colombia contributing things back. And it was like, we're doing something that other people in the world are starting to use. And that was what hooked me immediately. So I've been contributing for 12 or 13 years at this point, and that's the moment where it all began.
What was the moment when you realized OpenEDX was something worth investing in?
I don't know if that was such a point in time. It was more of it grew on me, the OpenEDX project. What made me think this was going to change the future, the future of education, were the courses at edX directly. The course, I remember it well, the course I was taking was by the Berkeley University in California. And the course was fantastic. I was fresh, maybe 1 or 2 years after the university, and I remember well the quality of the courses I was taking in my university, and this was the same level and above, and I thought, this is free, this I can take anywhere in the world, and it's from a university such as Berkeley, and I'm getting access to this for free in my house. That was just amazing. And then when I started working more with OpenEDX, the platform, I realized that the technical part of it was also it was not only the quality of the course, but the code, the platform that made it possible was equally important for that mission. and that's where I started to grow in me, because this was something that I could take, I could modify, I could install on my own, and competitors at that time like Coursera were closed source. I could not do and see or modify any of it. So it was a very good combination of the content and the technology at the same time.
How did the open edX community shape the way you think about trust, reliability, and scale?
I consider the open edX community my guide and my true master in terms of everything I've learned in my professional career. I knew how to program since I was a kid, and fresh from university, I was taking already a job as a computer program for a company. It was a completely different set of standards. It was a completely different mindset. None of the problems that arise with traffic were even considered at that different place. And when I started seeing that every time, even when I contributed something on all the code had been tested by the pressure of millions of users, and that every time that I contributed and that I wrote something, it had to be up to that standard, really guided me along the way. So my personal standards as a programmer and as a team lead nowadays basically come from the things I've learned in the open edX community.
What's one community-driven idea that directly influenced the way Edunext Hosting operates today?
Sure. This question takes me back to like the growth that we have had as a company, because in the beginning we could understand that some of the things that we needed as a hosting provider were not in the wish list of the whole community, that perhaps wasn't focusing as much on hosting small instances or hosting a lot of instances. And some of the things that you do when you have a gigantic installation with millions of users are different than those you do when you are trying to host a lot of instances in a repeatable and standardized manner. So for the first few years at Edunext, we sort of took the code from the community and crafted and wrote our own path. And we call this forking the code. And we had some basic changes and some more advanced changes even that we were putting on top of the code that was provided by the community. And the hard lesson there was that maintaining those changes became such a high burden that at some point the OpenEdX community does releases nowadays every 6 months, and it would take us more than 6 months of hard work to take those modifications and put them in the latest version. And that realization made me understand that this was unsustainable. We could not continue moving in the way that made us have such a big difference with the open source code. So when that happened, we decided to put our engineering efforts into making the OpenEdX code more approachable as an external force or as an external hosting provider that needed to put some things in and maintain them, but not be fighting the code all the time. And out of that work came something very, very interesting for the whole community that it's called the extensions framework, the OpenEdX extensions framework, which consists of hooks and hooks, which are divided into filters and events. It's a whole thing that we developed for the open source community, and we had even years of work put into making those extensibility options stronger and well documented and robust over time. And when we did that, the response from the open community was fantastic, was enormous. Everyone was saying like, this is something we needed for a while, and we're glad that you brought this in. And that completely shifted our mindset. So you can track it back to that moment and that contribution when we started thinking it's not worth to have like a separate path, and every every contribution since then, we are always thinking community first. How can we make this in a way that benefits others in the community, and in a way that makes it sustainable and maintainable for us in Edunext Hosting long term? And this dramatically changed all the way that we're doing. Even this year, we've been working with alongside the community in something called the Large Instances Working Group, where we take all the knowledge and all the experience that we get from edX hosting and we put it back in the community, and we are looking ahead and sort of being active participants in the guidance of the community for the issues and the difficulties that arise as a hosting provider, and even not a hosting provider, but just some institution that wants to host OpenEDX for themselves. We are trying to make that less of an issue, have like all the difficulties ironed out, and being more sustainable for the long term.
What's one thing institutions often underestimate when trying to host OpenEDX on their own?
I would say that the amount of pressure that you get when you get traffic, that's something that's easy to underestimate. Normally, when you're starting out, you think those are nice problems to have. It would be great once we get like 1,000 simultaneous users, that means we are succeeding, and it is. But that also means that when you are finally breaking ground and when you're finally having students, that's when you get the problems. And now you have a new and a complete new set of problems that come with the scale, but you also have people that you can disappoint. When you had very low traffic, it was very difficult to respond with errors that would make the experience annoying for a learner. But when you have constant traffic and constant influx of new users, then you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want the platform to be slow. You don't want the platform to be to fail in any way. So right-sizing the amount of infrastructure that you put in and making it scalable in a way that grows with your needs but also doesn't cost a lot, that's like a dance that you have to do all the time. And institutions that are starting out tend to ignore that dance, and they think that this is going to be easy, which is not necessarily the case. That's the one thing. And I would also say that a lot of institutions and customers that we have collaborated with over the years have also made this mistake of underestimating the cost of maintenance. And as providers and as consultants, we are very transparent, saying every time you decide to do something that is not in the platform and cannot be done over stable extension points, then you are assuming some maintenance cost that would later come and bite you in the future if you don't have like a clear understanding of it and if you don't plan ahead for it.
Why are reliability and continuous updates so challenging for institutions without dedicated DevOps capacity?
This is a good question. I would say it is difficult to have like this technology and this community has a broad tent, and you have under the same roof people like edX.org and Do You, which hosts this platform for, last time I knew, we're 35, but probably we are at 40 or 45 million users. And you have all the way to an academy that is starting out and that is producing some courses, and it hopes to get big over time and wants to maintain their costs of hosting really low at, I don't know, $50 or $100 per month, which is very low in terms of infrastructure. So you have this broad range of things, and what works for the gigantic scale, it is normally rather complicated, and what works for the small scale probably doesn't have the performance that is needed at the big scale. So in order to accommodate for these different needs, one of the compromises is that we use advanced technology such as Kubernetes and in general Dockerized containers for every little piece of the platform, and then orchestrating those pieces becomes quite a challenge. Luckily, Kubernetes and Docker in general has become more available and more common in the industry, and now it's not such a technical burden to have something like that in your organization. But we still find organizations that were expecting this to be like one server, you just put the hosting in there and you're done with it. And there are competing technologies that still work with those sets of tools. This one is not one of those, so you need to understand all the concepts that make you build images and orchestrate and deploy them, and also all the database scaling and high availability concerns. Those are medium to advanced concepts in the field, so you definitely need some technical knowledge in order to be able to start with OpenEdX. If you want to host it yourself, that is. For sure, you will find providers such as ourselves or others that will bridge that gap for you, but that's something to keep in mind.
What gap did you see that led you to create Edunext Hosting?
There are oftentimes some technology advancements and jumps that we need to account for. So the current version of OpenEdX Hosting, we needed to solve some technical situations and issues with a big change that was present in the platform for creating interesting experiences in the browser. Some years ago, the community as a whole decided to move into a new front-end technology called React. And before this, we had developed a whole set of tools for theming and manipulating the look and feel of the platform in the previous technology. And those were not, like, when we switched to React, not everything in React was compatible with our tools and was not compatible with our way of hosting. So we started drifting apart, and the community was doing new things in React, and this was a big switch, and one that we could say that is not necessarily finalized yet. It's very close to the end, but still issues arise sometimes with that, and we needed technical solutions to allow our users, our clients, to have the best possible experience. So for the first release or two, we could say, like, this is experimental. We don't suggest that you jump on the experimental wagon so quick. But then the bridge became larger and larger, and this was no longer experimental, and it was the actually default experience. So we needed to go back to the drawing board and create a completely new project, a new product to be able to support those differences. And in doing so, we were able to also write a product that is much more aligned with the open source community. And that's kind of, this happened at the same time that we understood that we could become leaders in the space and use our collective knowledge as a community and collaborate a lot more. So it was a whole rewriting of the story for us.
In your view, what makes Edunext Hosting fundamentally different from simply running servers?
Oh, I would say the knowledge and technical support. I mean, luckily for us and for the whole OpenEdX community, the days where you needed a lot of understanding from different technologies such as Ansible, that was quite a thing in this community, to get started, are over. And there are pieces of technology, most notably Tutor, which is a fantastic piece of technology that lets you install a small scale install, and even all the way to medium scale probably installation relatively quick, and lets you get started quick. There will come a time, if you continue to grow and if you continue to have traffic, where the most obscure issues will start to arise, and the difference between having a hosting partner as Edunext is that in all likelihood, we have seen all the weird issues. We have seen all the different technical problems that arise. We know them by heart, and the moment that we see the tracking logs or the error that a customer might say, like, this is happening, we know exactly where in the platform we need to go tweak it, what configuration is missing. And when we don't, and this is the most beautiful part, we go find it and we fix it for everyone else. So the actual gears of the open source community work in your favor as a customer, because you are contributing to making the technology better over time. So I would say that's the big difference.
If you had to summarize the value of Edunext Hosting in one sentence for institutions, what would you say?
I would say, trust and reliability. The idea is we are there. Even as for institutions, sometimes it can even be a challenge to retain the personnel, and this is knowledge work, which means even if I wanted to have everything written in paper and say, here's my vault with all the knowledge is something that's alive and that lives in the participants of the community, and we proudly contribute with our technical team to this community. And we have been in this long enough that we have seen all the cycles of change and new people coming in, and people that are tired with the project, want to see new horizons in their lives, go to different adventures and take with them a lot of this knowledge. So having a partner such as Edunext as an institution gives you the assurance, the security that someone with deep technical knowledge of the platform will be there when you most need it. And that's one of the issues that we solve as a provider of an open source hosting solution, is that we know very well our staff, and we have these cycles of change within our team, so that we contribute to teaching newcomers, both in our team and outside in the open community. But we are at this point very good at teaching people and making them become experts, so that you are never facing this problem for the first time or alone.
Why does having the right partner matter when institutions decide to invest in open edX hosting?
All right. For an institution, why having the right hosting partner matters? I would say there are two things. One has to do with cost, both in terms of the cost of hosting, like you can do this more expensively or less expensively, which is a direct connection to the money that you're going to spend, but also in the cost of like reputation that you will feel if you start putting courses out there and then the platform starts failing, the courses are not available, you click a button to advance in the unit and then you hit errors. This sort of annoyances to your learners become a reputational cost. So having a hosting partner, it's a good way to minimize that risk. That's one side. And the other side is when you get a partner that is well connected and understands well the open community, you also get to put some of your experience as an institution that's providing courses back into the core of the platform. So when you have some use cases that are valuable for the open community, there are ways to build this into the code, into the platform, in a way that also guides and takes a leadership position in the community. And a good hosting partner should open the door for you to contribute to the community. So ideally, you start big or small, but you start contributing to this project, and you should not feel that you are a weird user that has very specialized use cases that no one else will need. this is a big community, and there is a very good likelihood that someone else also needs these things, but you need a partner that's capable of opening the doors for you and take you to the community and let you find partners to collaborate with as well in the product definition, in the future of the project, all the way to taking leadership positions in there, like being member of working groups, and all the way to the TOC, which is also a possibility for partners that use the OpenEDX project. It is not only at a technical level, but also at the level of users that are actually taking this tool, using it to provide good quality online education, and you get to be part of that. So the provider definitely should open the doors for you and help you get familiarized and land in the community as a valuable member. I would say those two are quite important.